welcome everybody. I'm Steve Richards. This is the CEO Nation. Glad to have everybody here. Sorry, we're starting a little late. I'm excited today. We're going to cover condensing time, being more productive, pushing more towards your success. And we typically run this so that the replay is in the Facebook group, but it's put in there live. So if you're watching this later, I had trouble getting it connected live today. We'll just post the recording in there later. I'm glad to have everybody here live. On these CEO Nation Monday webinars, my whole goal is to make myself available to you guys. There's a lot of great training topics that we cover from time to time in different events and in different trainings. And what we've been doing is taking little chunks of those things that we work with coaching students in our trainings, in our events, and we pull out the little nuggets, and we've been trying to just cover a part of that each Monday for free. And then also a lot of people are always wanting to go to lunch or jump on a phone call or pick my brain. And I don't really have time for that anymore because we've got so many people coming from so many angles, but I make myself available every Monday at 3:30 Eastern for you guys to get on here. So a couple of different things. I'm going to cover a training topic today, but I'm also going to make myself available for a Q&A towards the end of this. We're going to keep it to an hour. We're already 10 minutes in, wasted time with Facebook today. So we'll keep rolling. If you got some pen and paper, you're probably going to take a few notes if you're struggling to stay more productive and you want to accelerate success. Today, we're going to talk about condensing time. We talked about distraction. If you understand the way your brain works last week, and how you can lean into distraction, because your mind drives towards distraction and dissatisfaction, and all of our motivation comes from that. And so whenever we're striving for something, there's a way to look at it that your brain is actually, you're trying to alleviate dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction is commonly equates to, hey, what's up, Bobby? Commonly equates to distraction. So the first thing your brain does when you're dissatisfied and you're not happy is usually look for distraction. That's why a lot of people get hooked on drugs and alcohol and gambling and codependent relationships and all these other things. But entrepreneurs can get hooked on trying to find one more revenue stream, trying to learn one more thing, paying for one more class, or just getting one more deal, or getting one more loan, or whatever it is, right? Making one more hire. We distract ourselves away from the dissatisfaction, and we indulge in something that we think is going to help us, but all it does is really take our mind off of what we should be doing. So if you guys missed last week's, it was a good one.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Bobby, can you mute up? I like your dog and everything, but just kidding.
That's my bad. I'm sorry.
But anyway, so last week, hey, by the way, Bobby, I don't think you're on. Facebook integration's all crazy. So I'm recording on the cloud. We'll have to post this recording in the Facebook group later. But anyway, I talked about that last week, and understanding the way our brain, we talked about 4 different ways that distraction creeps in because of dissatisfaction. And if you understand all, you can kind of lean into it and how you can be more productive. So I don't want to get into that even more, but I do want today, I'm going to piggyback on that, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that I think will help you guys as far as your production levels, and really just accelerating the concept of, what we deem success, I guess, right? Getting basically, which means achieving our goals. So before I do that though, for you guys, I'm going to pop in here. Bobby, I don't know if you're on listening but I'll just drop it in. I'm going to put a link in here for you guys. It's the ceonation.com/links, LINKS. So I don't want to talk too much about all this, but if you guys are needing help with hiring, or want to hear about our coaching, or you want to set up a strategy session, or you want to link to our Facebook group, or you want to get connected to our podcast, whatever it is, everything is on the ceonation.com/links. That's number one. I want you guys to make sure that's there. That has basically every different thing you may want to connect to us for, or get or find out about from us. So I can just say that. Secondly, if you guys, there's a handful of new people on here. If you guys don't know, I want this to be interactive. So just use the chat button to pop in any questions as we go. I'll try to keep an eye on that as we go. I want this to be, again, interactive and engaging for you guys while I'm covering the training topic, but I'm also open to just general Q&A, whether it's on marketing, whether it's on hiring, funding, metrics, accounting, business partnerships, sales, conversion, lead gen, whatever topics you guys may need help with. We get a ton of inquiries one-on-one, and I have a lot of personal connections, and people are always looking for help. And again, I just don't have time for all the Facebook messaging, and I dive in and I tend to connect quite a bit. And when I do, like, there's always so many people coming from so many angles. I've just made this time free for you guys. So if you guys have questions, get those ready, because I'm going to take time to answer any Q&A I can to help with business and, quite frankly, personal development, self-help, success, anything around that stuff. We'll get to that after we cover the training topic today. So make sure you guys use the chat for that. And then, like I said, make sure you guys hit the ceonation.com/links. By the way, Jay, John, Patrick, not John, not all the Johns. There's 3 of them. Steve, Tom. Oh, man. All right, I'm not going to name all you guys. So there's a bunch of people on here I don't know. Patrick, some folks that may be on here for the first or second time too. So Jacob Evans, what's up, by the way? I don't know if you've been on this one. I know you get on our Wednesday for our real estate company a lot. Aaron, Chris, Dave, Loretta, Terry, Ryan. Okay. So there's a bunch of folks on here. I'm not going to scroll through everybody, but if any of you guys are on here, and for those of you that know me, you know that KPIs is kind of like turning your business into a math equation is one of my superpowers. And if you guys don't have our KPI training, go get it. It's free. It's a 25-minute video with some downloads. You can get it at that link I just gave you, the ceonation.com/links. You can watch that, and it is really, really helpful. It's kind of a kingpin piece of everything that we do, and all the different trainings and coaching, all the stuff we do is to have that piece figured out. So I see a handful of you guys that I think may not have that yet. So go grab that. It's just a free download. And it's a 25-minute video. It's got a homework assignment and then an outline of exactly what to do. It's really, really good. So, all right. Gosh, we're 15 minutes in, and I'm just getting to the training. So glad to have everybody here. Like I said, we're going to be talking about condensing time, and it goes a little deeper than that. But for those of you that were on last week, again, we were talking about dissatisfaction being the primary and really the only motivator for any action that we take for all human race, basically. So, we all started these businesses because we were dissatisfied with something. And the problem with that is most of us are doing things out of some desire to run away from some circumstance instead of run towards something. So we don't always have sight of the end in mind. What we have is kind of the rearview mirror of where we were, and we're kind of running, and that's changing over time. So we're always looking the same distance back, no matter how far we get. And if we don't have a really dialed in definition of where we're headed in the future, we're kind of looking to the horizon, and the horizon is just always out there. No matter how hard we run, how far we go, we're always the same distance from the horizon. Now, it does start to look a little different over time. But one of the things I covered last week was this concept that we tend to find equilibrium in our life. And even if we push and get motivated to push and do something like start a business or take our business to another level by hiring somebody or investing in marketing or hiring a coach or all these different things we do that are like, big commitments from our time and money standpoint, which is how we show where our interest levels are, is where we put our time and money, right? And so we put our time and money into hiring, coaching, training, marketing, right? And so when we invest in those things, we expect our business to go to another level, and we think that's going to kind of do it for us. And when we do that, The problem is we do usually grow from that, whether we make a bad mistake and we learn a hard lesson, or we make a good move and we have a return on our investment. But we find this equilibrium where we're back to feeling like, oh, well, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And this is cool, but I want more. Right. And so it's not that we fall back to the same place, but our brain gets back to that same sense of contentment and dissatisfaction. And so that pushes us to want to achieve more. And so what's interesting with that is it's got us in this constant state of drive, right? And so we lose sight without really, really strong goals and really, really good KPIs. So the goals are where we're headed and the KPIs are like the controls we're using to get there, the mechanism. Without having that stuff in place, we've got this gap where we're just kind of running and gunning. And that's where the hustle and grind comes from. And people just kind of, we get things done and we're just kind of working, and we're not always paying attention to where we're headed. And so, one of the things that we tend to do if we track anything, which many of you guys on here, I know a lot of you guys have been to my events or you're in masterminds with me. A lot of you guys are in real estate too. I know you guys are tracking some KPIs, and so many people are tracking money KPIs on the back end, which is like the first one, right? Your first KPI ever is I track the balance in my bank account. And then, which is better than nothing, but it's a horrible one KPI to watch. And then I start to track how much money I spent and how much money I made. And then I start to track, well, what work did I do associated around that spend with hiring people or spending on marketing? What activities got done that drove those results? And that opens up a whole new layer of the game for us. And we start to have a lot more success, typically, if we do that correctly. The one thing that we're not tracking a lot of is time. And what I mean by that is we may track how much money we spend in marketing, what response we get, what quality of response we get to be prospects or leads, right? And then what sales conversion we have on that. And then ultimately what fulfillment with our goods or service that turns into revenue. And so there's a lot there, right? How many units of marketing, what was the spend, how many prospects, how many offers or pitches did we make, how many clients did we get, how much revenue. And that is really, really good compared to nothing. But many of us aren't tracking the time. How long did it take for the marketing to hit, to turn, and how many days was it or weeks to be a prospect? Once we had a prospect, how long did it take for them to become a client, right? And how much time, what activities happened during that time? So there's a time frame from when they were at this status to when they got to this status. That might have been a series of days or weeks, but there was activities that were done along the way. How much time did each one of those take? So we had this length of time, and then we had this amount of time for these activities. And the time piece, we don't track very well. And if you guys think about it, think about all the stuff we do to secure or track our things. We have our bookkeeping, we have our checkbook, we have our online banking, right? We have insurance. We do all these things. And so we have locks on our house. We have locks on our, different property we own. We may have storage units where we lock things in there and we put padlocks on it. We've got Ring, on our front door. We've got security cameras at our houses. We have, we hire financial advisors. We hire insurance agents, right? We not only protect our assets by locking them up, but many of our assets, we have insurance. Many of our assets, we also pay for some kind of third-party vendor or professional to be involved in making sure that we're tracking and making smart decisions with our assets, mostly money, right? But still stuff, the things in our house, right? And we have all kinds of insurance on our life and on our cars and on our house and the stuff in our house, the stuff in our office. We do all this, tracking and watching and securing and all these things of all these assets, right? But I guarantee, I'm going to ask you guys, because I make sure you guys are awake. Throw in the chat if you know what our number one asset is. The most important asset out of anything I was just saying. What do you guys think it is? Yep. Like 5 of you all said the same. It's time. I mean, it is unequivocally and undeniably time. It is absolutely the most important asset that we have. Yet we don't keep it under lock and key. We don't track it very well. We rarely hire people to help us with it. And we just give it away at a whim. We waste it on the internet. We, as we talked about last week, we're seeking distraction where we're just flippantly looking into new business opportunities, or we're spending time. How many times have you guys been on the phone with somebody and you're thinking this is a waste of time? Or you have a meeting on your schedule and you're looking at it ahead of time and you're thinking like, gosh, I don't know if I should be doing that. That is just throwing your money away. Yeah, I see health in there too, John. You're right. That is a massive asset. But I think your health, I can pay a doctor to give me better health. In fact, I do. I spend an enormous amount of money every year, although I don't exercise and work out like I should anymore. Although I'm working on that, guys. I'm gonna be talking about that as I got an event coming up where we're gonna talk more about that as one aspect of your life. But I spend an awful lot amount of money getting my blood drawn every quarter, and I have testosterone therapy from pellets. I have all these different supplements, and I have different vitamins. I can't even remember the last time I was sick, because I keep everything in balance, right? And I'm not saying I'm not going to have any major health issues, but I am paying professionals, and many of us do go to doctors, and we do exercise, and we go to gyms, and so our health is a little bit is something that we can control and we can buy back. But our time, once it's spent or used, it's gone. We never can get it back. So, it is the most valuable asset that we have. And, most of us, again, don't guard it. We don't secure it. We don't lock it up. Right. And so once it's gone, how did we spend it? We only get the one shot. And I want to talk to you guys about that today because, piggybacking on last week, we talked about this, distraction coming from dissatisfaction. And so I know you guys would agree as a business owner, dissatisfaction is a common occurrence. We are regularly not happy with the results from our marketing, from the results from our team, the results of our revenue, our profitability, or where we're headed, or maybe all that stuff is good, but we're worried about our growth plan and kind of where we're going next, because that's just how our brain is wired, as we said last week. So the distraction that comes out of that is literally the opposite of traction. So we have traction and distraction. And so to counterbalance what we talked about last week, getting our time figured out and condensing time and being more productive creates traction. So the distraction is spinning our wheels. It's the non-traction, right? And so every time we shift gears, every time we slow down, every time we hesitate, every time we stop plowing forward and we back up and we think, right? Or we change directions, or we drop one business line and start another, or we reinvent our team, we reinvent our revenue model, we change how our profitability model, we keep doing all these things. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do those things, but just realize every time you do it, you lose a little bit of momentum. And then when you try to hammer down again, your wheels spin because you're trying to get going. So we lose a little bit of our forward progress. At the same time, we lose a little bit of our traction every time. And so if it's a good distraction, like we talked about last week, it's worth losing some traction, because once we gain traction again, if we stick to it and go forward, we'll be heading in a better direction. And so I want you guys to think of it that way. I think it's probably distraction. We talk about shiny object syndrome and all these things as a business owner, but I think it's interesting for you guys to think about that being the opposite of traction. And traction is when we are gaining ground on our goals, right? We're working towards, we're achieving, we're being productive, right? And so it's interesting to me, when I look back on this last year, I think it goes without saying that it's been an unbelievable year of distraction, right? Worrying about where the market's going, the economy, right? What's going on with the election, politics, listening to all these different things going on, right? And then second guessing ourselves. And, rightfully so. A lot of us took a big step back last March. I did a lot of Zooms that some of you guys were on, and we thought, hey, is it time to like go all cash right now and sit back and wait? Is there going to be blood in the streets? What's going to happen? So we did have some of that we needed, but there was a lot more last year than we needed. And so I really got to thinking about the difference between traction and distraction. And one of the big differences between a good company and a great company, and quite frankly, a bad company, is the ability to create traction and maintain it. And so when something like COVID happens, which is a crisis, right? I've been through the .com. I got out of college. Many of you guys have heard my story, and I was in the tech consulting business at the end of the 90s, and I went through the .com bust, the subsequent 9/11, right? There was a recession around 2000, and then there was a Y2K. Like everyone thought the computers were going to stop working. Went through the housing bust in 2008. Obviously, we've all, if you're brand new to this, I guess in the last few months, you haven't really been too subjected to it, but we've all gone through this pandemic ripple that we've gone through, this unemployment potential disruption that we haven't really seen disrupt too bad yet, unless you're a restaurant. But all those kinds of crises that come along pale in comparison to like a cancer diagnosis, whether it's you or a key employee, a divorce, mental health illness, issues. Nepotism is a thing with family businesses, right? These things that are happening just every day, these are all versions of crisis. And so when crisis comes along and you have a business that doesn't have traction, when you're more apt to have distraction, which is bouncing around, I have an unfocused business model. I'm not locked in on my marketing mechanism on how I generate leads. I don't have a good team building and team managing process. I don't know who, how, when to hire. I don't have my business aligned around my personal objectives and my personal business. These are the 4 pillars of freedom that we talk about, our business model, our process for hiring, and then the operations model of how you run the team that executes the model, right? And then the 4th pillar is the alignment of making sure the business is giving you what you need. So in the grand scheme of that, when you have those things, you create traction. And so when crisis comes along, a bad business, which is full of distraction, gets destroyed. Just it either goes completely out or the owners have to reinvent and they struggle and fight. The good companies will survive. They make it through. It's kind of, half a dozen one, 6 the other, like some good, some bad, and you kind of come through the other side. But the great companies, which are the ones that know how to focus on traction, that know what they want, that have a foundation, that are able to create traction on a consistent basis and move forward, even if that target changes a little, those companies are actually made better by crisis. And crisis is coming around the corner any possible day, any possible week. We have a key employee quit. We have this online marketing campaign that was giving us all of our, our leads. It changes tomorrow. Google changes their analytics, or Amazon changes something about how the stores run. I've seen it happen with clients that we're helping with Amazon stores. I've seen it happen with internet marketing clients. I regularly see it with real estate clients, right? Or you've got, if you're in real estate, a lot of you guys are, you got one or two huge buyers, and they just, boom, they just change. That they drop their criteria, something changes. So you have this crisis comes along. And when that happens, if you have a way to create traction in your business where you're focused with how you spend your time and how you execute your model, you'll be forced to innovate and you'll get better. If you don't have that, you'll spin your wheels and you'll crash and burn. And so one of the big things that I want to talk about here, I'm going to try to keep us on time. So we're about 20 minutes in, because I started a little late. But I'm going to wrap this topic here in a few if you guys are taking notes, and then I'm going to open up for Q&A. But one of the things that is a big differentiator, and this is, if you've been taking some notes, great, but this is something you want to write down if you haven't been writing anything down yet. One of the big differences between companies with traction and distraction and the people that can condense time, like we talked about, as the teaser for this week's topic, is that without crisis, we're able to create limitations and guidelines on our time. So crisis creates these limitations, because when some of our, especially in real estate guys, like our margins are so stupid, we don't care about wasting money on something. We'll try a marketing campaign and we don't care. If you're one of my clients that's a restaurant and you're operating on like a 3 to 6% margin and a batch of chicken goes bad in the freezer, like you care a lot, right? But if you're in a high margin business, you can run loose and you don't really worry about it. But crisis creates limitations. Crisis also forces us many times to operate with certain guidelines, right? And when we get confined, that's when we're able to innovate if we're a great company. If we're a good company, we maneuver. And if we're a bad company, we get smacked in the face and or we go out of business. And so how can we take this idea of limitations and guidelines and build that into our regular business so that we can be operating within those kinds of constraints so that we can innovate without crisis, which is a lot nicer than innovating with crisis. And so as a visionary, especially as a business owner, if you just have a wide open calendar and a mile long to-do list, that is literally a recipe for being a bad company with no traction. If you're able to time block and schedule your time and prioritize your time and build your KPIs and focus on activities, leading activities that drive lagging results, and track the time frame in between things and how long things take, then you can start to control time and create constraints and limitations. And you can say, hey guys, we only have 24 hours between when a lead comes in to when it needs to be qualified. Hey guys, we only have 48 hours after that, or 48 minutes, I don't know, or 4 to 8 weeks, whatever your cycle is, to make our pitch to that client to try to win their business. Hey, we only have 4 to 8 minutes maybe from an online lead that comes in where we need to have them qualified, because if it's a Google pay-per-click lead in our business and they click and call and then no one answers, they're clicking the next one. You got 30 seconds, a minute after they hang up. And many times we've seen a lot of our clients who are calling pay-per-click leads back within a couple minutes, and they can hear the phone beeping on the other end because they're on the phone with the next person down the line, right? And so building these time constraints in, I'm not going to call them arbitrary, but what I'm going to call them is manufactured, because I don't know what they need to be, but we can create the guidelines and constraints to operate so that when people in our business aren't just tracking the activities, they're tracking the time frames. And this is what allows us to condense time and create success. Because as you guys know, you can't measure what you don't track. And what you measure, you can grow, you can improve, right? And so by creating constraints and timelines, which might be, hey, my sales reps, guys, I want you to have 15 appointments a week. Each appointment with drive time back and forth or prep time is 2 hours. That's 30 hours. If you're working 40 hours a week, that gives you 10 hours of prospecting time. And if you don't have 15 clients booked, I want you to take one of those 2-hour blocks and spend it on LinkedIn or spend it on Craigslist or spend it at a class, getting better at sales or whatever, but it's teaching them to block that time and set that time apart and understand how they're using their time better and create constraints. And so that kryptonite like feeling when our employees just have a mile long to-do list and a wide open calendar can be turned into, like a super juice, like a superpower serum, when we say, look, here's the exact things I need you to do at the exact times, and this is how long you have. Even if they come back and they say, hey, boss, sir, I tried to do what you said and it took twice as long. This is crazy. I could never do as much of what you asked me to do in that amount of time. Cool. I got a baseline. Let's talk about why that happened. And so by building time into our metrics, we're going to be able to control time a lot better. And that is going to allow you guys to focus on what matters most. And it's something that's wildly missed. So many people aren't tracking time in their metrics. They're not tracking the time frames how long something takes to actually physically do work. And then they're not tracking how much time passes between milestones. And so this, if you guys, there's some of you guys on here that are just like basic flippers I can see in the real estate world. How long does it take between when you see a deal for you to get out there and see it, to actually show up at it if you need to and get your bid? How long does that take? How long does it take to make an offer? I can guarantee the speed at which a deal comes across your plate and you have whatever information you need to create an offer, that time frame matters. And if you started tracking it and you tracked which deals you get and which ones you don't, I can almost guarantee that there's a correlation between how quick you act and how quickly you can get done. Now, I'm not saying don't do any due diligence. What I'm saying, how quick you get the due diligence done will directly correlate to how many deals you get. And then when you're doing bids, how long does it take to bid? How long does it take to manage your contractors weekly, right? How long does it take to put a product back on the market? I don't really care if it's 3 weeks or 3 months, but the point is that you're conscious of that and you're able to manage to it and have expectations. And then once I have those, I can start to say, okay, I got to get this from 3 months, 90 days, I got to get it down to 80 days, or it's whatever, 6 weeks, and I got to get it down to 5 weeks. Once you start tracking and have a legitimate baseline, most of us are guessing at how long things take. And so in our head, when we're guessing, we're just, in one way, we're super over optimistic about what's really happening. And in other ways, it's called black hat thinking. We're always thinking like worst case scenario. It just depends on which one serves our brain. Remember, we talked about this heavy last week. Our brains work so weird. We've talked about this a lot, quite frankly, especially in relationships. Whether it's in a relationship on a sales negotiations with a client, whether it's in a management relationship with an employee on your team, whether it's your spouse or a kid, when faced with a challenge or an opportunity, a lot of times our brain is initially telling us to do the opposite of what is probably best. Like someone yells at us, we're going to yell back. Well, if you literally think about that, hey, someone's upset to the point where it made them yell, what would I want to do to get them to stop? Well, it would probably be like to calm them down, right? Well, do you think yelling at someone is a way to calm someone down? No, it's probably a way to irritate them more. And so if you really dive in, a lot of times our brain is defaulting to the opposite. And so when it serves us, when we don't really want to know, we're like over optimistic, like, oh, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. And you start looking at your real numbers. This is why a lot of times when you guys force yourself to get KPIs together, for those of you that are in masterminds, I could call you guys out individually because some of you guys are in masterminds with me. You guys show up and you're like shocked at your numbers because you don't ever look at them that much. And you're like, I didn't know it was that bad. And then, you're over optimistic about what's going on in your business until you actually look at them and realize it's not near as good as you thought, right? And then there's other times when you're just assuming the worst because it's like, in lieu of having all the details, a lot of times our brain starts to work out the worst case scenario. And then once we work it out, we're like, oh, that's really not that bad. And so we got to start tracking all that stuff just so we can get all this psychological estimation out where sometimes we're optimistic and sometimes we're like pessimistic, and none of those times are accurate. And all of that is about condensing time because that's what leads to more success. And it can help you guys achieve more of what you want faster. And even if you miss the mark when you're, achieving, when you're accomplishing faster, even if you find out it's not what you really want, you're still learning quicker. And it's all about traction versus distraction. This is heavy compared to like last week. We talked about how your brain works a lot, right? And then, I want you guys to just, a big key takeaway today is what are you doing to protect your time? Like you protect everything else, anything else that's valuable to you. Think about it. Like I said, guys, we track it in spreadsheets. We pay professional people to help us grow it and track it and use it. All these other assets, whether it's time or stuff or money or, marketing, employees, like our assets in our house, our personal belongings, our cars. We insure all this stuff. We put locks in it. We lock everything. We have cameras on our house. We do all this stuff to protect things. But our time is the most valuable asset and is literally just hanging out there to be squandered daily. I know you guys have heard this stuff before, but I want you to really, really dig into it and think about what am I doing because we just started the second quarter, right? We're only a few weeks in, quickly tracking to 3 weeks into the second quarter, which means we're close to a month into the second quarter, which is a third, which means before we know it, we're going to be half into the second quarter, and then we're going to go blink our eyes a few times, and you're going to be on, a handful of these with me every Monday, and then you're going to do your thing, and we're going to look up, and we're going to be in the summertime, and the year is going to be half over. And we're going to have to figure out how much traction have we had? How much traction could we have had? How much of our time got squandered? What am I doing to protect that going forward, right? How am I adding limitations and guidelines into my day-to-day that can help me, call more prospects, close more deals, get more marketing done? At the end of the day, we care about what we're trying to get out of our business. It's over here, right? It's our lifestyle. It's our desired, what the time and money our business will give us. What does it do for us? It's being really clear on who we are and what we want. And then how are we building a business to give us that, so that we can reverse engineer the time and money we want back into our business, so the business kicks off, free time and money. And when we go one other layer deeper than that, it's how do we create a consistent, repeatable, and profitable model that we can employ other people to execute on our behalf, with an operations model that we can manage that team, all so that as it executes and gets done, it rolls up into giving us a lifestyle we want. That's what the CEO Nation is all about. That's what all these Mondays are about. That's what all of our training and coaching and everything we do is about, is that if you're a business owner, we want you to have a business that works for you instead of you working for it, so that you guys aren't sacrificing the best of your time and the most of your money into the business, and then the leftovers is there for you and your family. That's not what this is all about, because you can have your cake and you can eat it too. It's a lot of hard work, but most of the work is up here. It's in your head. And so that's what a lot of these Mondays are about. So, all right, guys, hopefully that helps. If you have questions on this topic, let's hit them up right now. I know several of you guys are doing a lot of business that are on here. You guys have to have questions. I'm going to open up for Q&A here for a little bit. Anything goes. Whatever I can do to help. Business partnerships, marketing, funding, metrics, hiring. What do you guys got? Who's got some questions? If all you guys have perfect businesses and don't need help, please put a chat in here to get with Bobby and let him know that we need to schedule you for a future interview with us, so that we can interview you about how your business became so perfect that you don't need help. Right? By the way, I'm the first one that needs to sign up for all my own businesses, because there's always something going on. I'll tell you guys too, while we're doing that, throw questions in, guys, if you got them. But I'll also put this out there. We got a lot of good feedback from a couple weeks ago when we had the group in from Albuquerque, and we did that interview style coaching call where we broke down about paid marketing. That was 2 weeks ago. We talked about how to work towards and understand when you should invest in marketing instead of trying to do manual lead generation, and how to vet vendors and how to understand ROI for marketing. That was a really cool session. It ran way long. I mean, it was like an hour and 40 minutes, or I don't know. But we got a lot of good feedback. So we are looking towards, when you guys have bigger questions in your business like that, like I'm getting ready to make a strategic hire, I'm thinking about a certain partnership, I'm making a big shift in my focus on my plan, or I'm going to start investing in paid marketing at a real rate for the first time, like those guys, like Evan and Jarrett. Well, we want to work with you guys, and we can set up a Zoom, and it's all free, where I can try to best encapsulate what your issue is and work with you and get some basic advice. And then we're going to go on one of the upcoming Mondays, and we'll break it all down in a free coaching call. And then you'll be kind of connected to us too for follow-up after that. But I want to take the biggest and best opportunities and problems that you guys are coming to us with offline and try to get some of that stuff into the Monday calls, because I think it's more interesting when it's in the context of people's actual businesses instead of me just kind of talking. And I also think it's interesting to have more than just my face on the screen. So All right, guys, what questions? Anybody got questions? I can start calling people out if you guys want me to. Remember, the replay will be on the Facebook page or the Facebook group. The CEO Nation will upload it there. And we'll also put the link out there again, the ceonation.com/links. Anybody got anything? I'm not going to make you guys stay here. I must be more entertaining than I think, or you guys are shy, or you're like working at the same time. It's kind of odd that nobody's got any questions. All right, cool. Hold on. So Matt said he wants to know that if you're in the mode of just hustle and grind and it feels like it's always crisis, but things are going pretty well, how do you get out of that mindset to be less reactive? All right, good. That's a good question, Matt. So it all starts with many times, if you guys remember, Matt, I was talking about that earlier where I said many of us are running away from something instead of running towards something. Many of us are kind of running someone else's race, quite frankly, where we're like, oh, I want to make 10 grand a month in my Amazon store, or I want to, replace my current income with, consulting income clients and quit working for someone and open my own business, or, I want to do a certain amount of revenue in house flips, right? And it's like, I want to flip 100 houses. I want to have 10 clients. I want to run a mastermind. I want to have a store. There's all these things, right? Like those aren't your why, right? Like that's what you're trying to do. And there's 3 big components, Matt. So the why isn't like my family. That's not a deep enough why. Your why is, if it's your family, it's how much time do you want to spend with them? How much money do you need to do the things, to take the vacations, to have the private kids in private school or college, and to have the cars and give to your charities and tithe at your church, or whatever the things that you want to do. That why has to be broken down at a deeper level so that you know exactly what you're going to do to achieve that why. And then you have to start looking at how much that's going to cost. How much time and how much money is that going to take to do those what's, right? So we start with why and we break down backwards. Over here, our business exists. The why exists is to feed our personal, lifestyle over here by providing a certain value to the marketplace. So we start to break down the what needs to be done in the business, and then we start to break down how. It's like there's parallels there. It's like why, what, how. And how is we log into this software, we call this vendor, we say this sales script, we deliver this kind of product on the back end, this kind of service. And so that why, what, how, the more clear we get on the why, the more clear we can get on the what. Because a lot of times, if many of us are stuck in the how, we get stuck in the technical, the how, the doingness of something. And when we're down there, we have a lot of questions. And the reasons that we have more questions than answers is because what we should be doing, again, many times we don't know what the most productive thing we should be doing right now. Should I be, growing my team? Should I be investing in marketing? Should I be trying to decrease expenses? Should I be trying to increase revenue? Should I be expanding into new markets or products? Should I be contracting? Right? There's all these what questions that aren't answered because we haven't gotten granular enough and detailed enough here. So the how, we're living down in the how every day, and we don't get super productive, and we can't be, really, really detailed with our answers there because we're kind of ambiguous above that. And then the reason that our what is that way is because our why is ambiguous. And honestly, I would tell you guys, we run into this all the time. Most people don't really know what they want. They start to think of the top level why, but then they can't really break that down into the what. So they're like, oh, my family matters. I'm going to start a business because I want free time and money for my family. Well, like, what does that mean? Right? Like, they don't know what they want. And so once you start to break that down, there's a lot of questions to answer in the middle. And then the bottom part, how, becomes so much easier, Matt. So when you feel like you're in a reactive mode all the time and you can't get out of that and get in front of it and become more proactive, my guess is that you're spinning wheels on the how because your what isn't very defined. And maybe it's not just because you aren't sure what to do. It's maybe there's too much going on because you aren't sure what not to do. And so you're doing too many things. And a lot of times the answer is to do more of less things. To do less things more often is usually a path to success, right? That's the way that you master something, is to do more, more of less things, or do less things more often. That's where we can start to master something and start to really understand it, build our KPIs, get really good at training people and bringing the right people in, and then we can kind of grow from there. So I hope that answers your question. So Ryan, let me see. Let me pull you up. You raised your hand. What's up, dude? You there? You with us, Ryan? You're muted if you are.
There we go. Okay. I'm muted. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I think I actually answered my own question. When I looked at the chat, I went and I found the links. So I'm gonna look through like that KPI training and stuff like that. But I'd be interested in talking to you more offline.
Okay.
Nothing specific, but cool.
So you don't want to share whatever it is so everyone else here can learn from it?
I was going to ask about the KPI tracking. So,
okay. What specifically about it?
Just watch. I've got it pulled up, so I'm going to go through it here when we're off the call. So,
okay.
I mean, I've got my KPI tracking that I'm doing. I've just never.
You're breaking up a lot, dude. Ryan, you sound like a robot, dude. We can't hear you. Are you on your phone? Turn your Wi-Fi off.
I'm on my mobile, or I'm on the network.
Yeah, are you in your office?
So, no.
Oh, that's better.
No.
Now.
Okay.
That's cool.
Well, I'm having a little bit of a transition period going from where I wholesaled a ton, but I did everything, to actually setting up kind of, the systems and team to do it. So it kind of runs like a business without me. So I'm kind of going through those challenges, and I guess sometimes, like I feel like I have to do everything sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like my staff is missing stuff. Like, I mean, there was a lead in an area where, right off the bat, I'm just like, oh my gosh, we could wholesale this for $50K. And it's kind of like, what are we doing? Like, how come, how are we not calling them with every single number that we possibly have, basically driving to this guy's house, and snatching that deal up, kind of, so like that.
Ryan, don't worry about that. We already bought it. My real estate company already bought it. So
probably,
no,
yeah, probably. So
no,
you'll send it to me first. Yeah.
Watch that, because it's all based around on, for those, there's a handful of people on here probably don't know who you are. Ryan's a very successful flipper doing renovations here in town, doing multiple $1 million a year in profit on flips, and just looking at how he can sell houses as is more often, which is called wholesaling in the real estate world, where it's like flipping a house without having to work on it. But Ryan, it's interesting because you've gotten so far out of your business that you're going to have to get back in it, because a lot of the KPI stuff is going to be you being in there. And instead of resenting the fact that you pulled back in, Like you need to relish the opportunity to get back in, but instead of just running and gunning and hustling and being resentful, take your opportunity to really re-engage and then pay attention to, while you got your head down working. Think about how long things take and how it feels. And every time you think of something, write it down and talk to other people, right? Train everybody, and embrace the opportunity to get re-involved in your business instead of being frustrated about it. You know what I mean? Because I know it's frustrating for you to look from the outside, but every time there's a problem, that's actually an opportunity for you to dive into it and then take your arsenal and train somebody and make your company better, right? Because you're just going from hustling to being a company. So your company isn't functioning poorly. You're functioning really well.
I think the frustration is mostly just it's kind of like the lack of clarity on what I should be doing, kind of like to lead my team. I guess it's do I jump in and do it for them, or do I am I teaching them, or like what it's kind of that weird transition period, I guess, where really just getting in and doing it is really the only that's really kind of the only way to do it.
Well, hey, dude, you know what? Like, I'm going to make a note. I think this would be a good topic for a future.
Just things like like what does like a daily huddle look like, with your acquisitions team? Like what agenda items? I'd love to be like on a fly on the wall and watch somebody and watch somebody.
Yep. There's a lot of folks that just wish somebody would be like, look, just tell me how to do it, and then I'll go do it.
Right.
But here's part of the process, and then I'm going to wrap here with this, but I'm going to hit you up because maybe we'll make this one of the future coaching Monday calls we do, where we break down the concept of how to transition, like how do you get engaged but without getting sucked in the black hole, but like engage proactively.
How do I kind of effectively lead to get more results, without micromanaging? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, and it's actually really just about your perspective, because it feels like you're micromanaging and you feel like you failed when you have to go back and work in business.
Yeah.
So you're resentful, like you resent it. But the reality is, if you have the right perspective and lean into it, it's not as bad as you think.
I feel
more beneficial than you had hoped every time.
Yeah. I'm not the only person that's gone through this. Every single person that's going from kind of doing it themselves to to actually having more of a team, having it be more dependent on the system and the teams.
Yep, 100%.
I'm sure they've gone through something similar.
Yep.
So it's just it's good. It's more of a milestone than anything. So now I just part of my just kind of sitting there just thinking, okay, what do I do to kind of expedite like my team, like and lead my team, and I don't have clarity with that. So so it's like I'm trying to like dig in, and again, maybe not me trying to figure out how could take years, but figuring out the who else has done it, and learn from them could really expedite the process. If that,
yep, 100%.
And the clarity, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, dude, let's connect more offline on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap today's, but yeah, let's talk about that, because not only can we help, but like I said, maybe we'll make this a topic for next Monday or one of these upcoming Mondays, but it's a really common thing. I'm going to bounce you out, Ryan. We'll talk. Okay.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. So as I wrap for today, guys, that was actually, I'm glad. That was a good question before with Matt, and it was cool pulling Ryan on, because I bet a lot of you guys are going through the same thing where it's like frustrating to get pulled into the day-to-day, but also it's just literally part of how do you train and grow a team. And it can't be done from afar. There is very little set it and forget it. In fact, there really is no set it and forget it. What you can do is build a team that has a mechanism designed in it so that it catches problems and then it brings those to the surface, and then someone's watching that and they're able to deal with it. And so it's almost like you can create this like self-repairing mechanism, but it's about systems and processes and people. Because so many of us that think we own a business really just own a job. And what we have is tax IDs and revenue and deals and leads and, employees and clients and bank accounts and websites and business cards and blah, and blah, 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 all this other stuff, right? Those are all things that a business has or does. Those aren't what a business is. Those are part of it. And a business is a revenue model that has systems and processes built in to execute the model. And then it has team members who are plugged in to those positions to execute the model. And then there's a management, just like Ryan was saying, what do you do in a huddle? What do you do in your weekly team meeting? What do you do in your department meetings? What do you do in your daily huddles? How do you do your monthly, review sessions? How do you do your quarterly, planning? How do you do your annual goals? Like, how does all that stuff work? And is it all interconnected so that it's actually productive and it's cohesive and it's all tied together? That is what the business is. That is the business. And if you don't know that stuff and you're just out hustling and you're not taking time to slow down and lean into that part of it, like defining a very detailed model and creating roles with systems and procedures that these roles execute with a management system, right? That's where the business really comes into play. And that's what will set you free. That's where you can actually make more money and work less at the same time. And when you have a job instead of a business, every time you do more marketing and you hire more people, those are the two main investments we make outside of in ourselves. We invest in ourselves with training, coaching, things like that to learn, or time. We invest time, whatever it is to learn. But the two other major investments we make in a business are investing in marketing so we can control deal flow, and we invest in people so we can get more done, right? Well, whenever we make those two investments in marketing and people, and we don't have a real business set up, we're just self-employed hustlers, basically, to put it bluntly, we get busier. So every time I get more leads and I hire more people, I get busier. In a real business, we can actually invest in marketing and especially invest in people, and we should have less to do, and the business should grow. So we can actually make more revenue with less of our involvement. But I'm going to tell you, many of you guys that don't have the business set up right, every time you hire, it's a struggle. You're worried about investing in people. You don't think you have the time. You don't think you have the money. You're worried you're going to train your competitor. There's all this stuff that happens. But when you don't have your business set up correctly, this is a telltale sign, if you aren't sure, is that when you bring a new team member on, you literally will get busier every time you hire. It is the absolute opposite, where you think like, oh, I can get stuff off my plate. You will literally get busier every time you hire. And then you'll build up this big ball of wax that's just rolling with all this opportunity. And yeah, the revenue goes up and all that, but your workload and your stress level go up accordingly with the revenue. And you're thinking, gosh, it would have just been easier to stay down here. And I wasn't like making as much revenue, but quite frankly, I was netting about the same and I had way less stress. Guys, I know several of you guys on here have probably dealt with this very thing. So I would just urge you guys to really look at what you're doing in the business to make it a business. And again, that's what all these are about. That's what all these Mondays are about. So I'm going to close with this. If you guys haven't been to the ceonation.com/links, go there. That's where you can set up a strategy call with us. More importantly, get the KPI guide if you guys don't have that, because I think that will help in your business a lot. Connect to the podcast, Facebook group, all that stuff. We'll have more information coming soon about our next live event, which will be later this spring. But also, if you guys want to connect and bring a topic to our attention that you think would make a good future Monday call like the one we just got through today, and you want to get a free coaching call on it and kind of lean into this process and help us, I'm looking at it as, can I create good content and help other people by giving away free coaching with somebody who's got a good topic that when I pour into you in the call, in the Monday call when you're on with me, you'll get a great benefit, and then the CEO Nation will get a benefit because other people will get to learn from your guys's stuff. And so Ryan's great, and I know him really well, but what he did happens all the time. People are like, oh, I was on your webinar, but I didn't want to take time, so I just thought I'd call you. And then I get a text on a weekend, hey, can you get on a call? Or hey, can I come to your office? Or can I spend a day with your team? Or hey, can you send me a couple contracts that you use, or can you show me what your metrics looks like? There's all this stuff people ask for, right? And so it's really hard to give just a little bit outside of context. So I'm encouraging you guys to post in the Facebook group and ask good questions, or post your wins, post your struggles, your opportunities, your threats, right? Let's connect in there. Let's connect on here. Bring your questions. We just want to help, right? I want to help you guys move from, struggling CEO to winning CEO, from an entrepreneur to a business owner. And so that you have something that works for you instead of you working for it, right? So that's the CEO Nation. So hit the links. Cool. Thanks, Bobby. Put the link out one more time. All right. That's it. We ran a little long. Good talking to you guys. Again, this one didn't go live into Facebook. We'll figure that out hopefully before next week. We'll just post a copy of this video in there. And again, I'm Steve Richards with the CEO Nation, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.